The world is getting hotter. Both land and sea temperatures are at record-breaking highs. And as per climate experts, the target of keeping long-term global warming within 1.5 degrees Celsius is getting out of reach. Parts of North America were 10 degrees Celsius above the seasonal average this month. Wildfires in Canada and the United States East Coast have led to record-breaking carbon emissions, 160 million metric tons. Extreme heat has also been recorded in India, China, Spain, Iran and Vietnam. Punishing droughts have also been witnessed across the world this year. Sea surface temperatures are also rapidly increasing. Global average sea surface temperatures hit 21 degrees Celsius earlier this year. It remained at record levels throughout April and May. As per Australia's weather agency, Pacific and Indian Ocean sea temperatures could be 3 degrees Celsius warmer than normal by October. Warmer seas could mean less wind and rain, creating a vicious circle that leads to even more heat. Thousands of dead fish have been washing up on beaches in Texas. Meanwhile, in California, heat-induced algae blooms have been blamed for killing sea lions and dolphins. As per reports, 4 major factors are to be blamed for rising sea temperatures: global warming, the El Nino weather pattern, a decline in Saharan dust blowing over the ocean, and the use of low-sulfur shipping fuels.
Okay, fist bumps, I like that. We've been putting together a working group that we agreed to.
U.S. climate envoy John Kerry is set to visit Beijing, which could restart talks between the United States and China next week. The COP28 climate talks will be held in Dubai in November. But experts worry very little progress has been made on key issues like fossil fuels and finance, and the talks may once again fail to build any consensus over climate action. Now for more on this, we're joined by Vishwas Chitale. Mr. Chitale is the Senior Program Lead on the Council on Energy, Environment and Water. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Hem.
Sir, experts across the world have repeatedly been saying that nations aren't doing enough to combat or slow down climate change. Would you agree with that assessment? What should countries be doing?
Yes, thank you for having me on the show. As you mentioned the countries or nations aren't doing enough to combat the climate change impacts. We can see that currently the global stocktake process is going on. That started in 2021 and now it will conclude in COP28 in Dubai in end of this year. So recently our institute has launched a report on this global stocktake that talks about what countries are trying to do or what are their ambitions. And I will try and highlight 4 points here. In terms of the mitigation, which is like one of the important aspects of reducing the climate change impacts in terms of emission reduction and other actions, at least some of the countries have submitted the emphasis on higher or enhanced ambition of reducing the emissions, which means that they are really trying to commit to these actions by increasing more efficiently on reducing the emissions. At the same time, it's also about adapting to climate change. Some of the countries have also talked about increasing the adaptation funds, increasing the role of deploying nature-based solutions, etc. So these intents are at least seen in some of these global stocktake processes. But what is lacking is in terms of the overall understanding of how much of climate finance budget should be allocated to these actions and how the overall preparedness in the countries needs to be improved.
Right, sir. Now, the rising temperature of the sea surface is, of course, a cause of concern as well. How much of this particular problem is being addressed? Do you think low-lying islands are at the risk of being swept away completely?
Yes, I think sea level rise is really increasing day by day. Also, the sea surface temperature, like this year, we have seen that by February already the 21.1 degrees Celsius threshold for sea surface was crossed, and it's increasing very rapidly, which is also increasing the number of cyclones in Arabian Sea, which is a very new phenomenon that we have seen in recent years. So not only a risk to the small island nations that are facing the challenges in terms of say Caribbean islands, Pacific islands, but also like if we talk about Indian context, the coastal cities like some of our major cities like Mumbai, Chennai are located on the coast, which are going to face probably even more climatic impacts in near future. And these impacts are increasing both in terms of intensity as well as in frequency. So we might see some unprecedented changes in the climate that can cause not only flooding or not only uninhabitation of island countries, but also to some of the mainland countries with coastal areas. Exposure or risk of these climatic impacts is going to be really high.
Right, sir. Absolutely. In fact, I was just going to come to this. Climatic conditions have been erratic, unpredictable across the world. We've seen deadly tornadoes, hurricanes in Africa, heat waves in China, wildfires in North America in the last 4 months. What do you have to say about these climatic patterns?
Yeah, I mean, see, this year has been like one of the really complex years in terms of climatic weather patterns. We have seen that in February and March, most of India saw a lot of rainfall during winter. Also in April and May, we have seen a lot of rainfall in northern parts of India. But now we have seen, due to the El Nino effect kicking in, the rainfall has been delayed. And as we can see today, as of today, 10 states are facing deficient rainfall. Whereas if you see northeastern part, like Assam is already flooding a lot, which is totally unpredicted to happen already in June. So, I mean, these are really complex patterns that we have seen. At the same time, some of the states in India are reeling under heat waves. At the same time, some states are facing unprecedented floods. So we will really have to see, how we are prepared in a better way to address these complex situations. And one of our reports also highlight the swapping patterns of climatic extremes. The areas which were facing floods are also now facing droughts or vice versa.
Right.
So these complex patterns and swapping of trends needs to be understood to better prepared for these kind of climatic impacts.
Right. Well, Mr. Chital, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast with your insights on this.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.